Alright, so for some reason I went writing crazy with the last two seasons. Not sure why, but I went like super specific with like a lot of the episodes that happened this season, these two seasons. Not sure why, but for some reason I just went super general with season 2 and 3, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make up for it, and now I'm going to go super specific with seasons 4 and 5. So these are going to be long, as you could probably see from the time code at the bottom, but apologies. Alright, so season 4 starts, and it's been a year since Supergirl was taken down to hell. Nobody knows what really happened to her, just that she vanished. Steel, as well as Martian Manhunter, are handling crimes in Metropolis, and with the help of Natasha Irons, who recently became Starlight. Jones and the Irons are handling it rather well. However, a big threat comes rolling in to be our big bad. I would want it to be cosmic so that you would need a reason for Linda to come back into the world, as well as an explanation to bring in another hero to be part of the super family. But we'll get to that in a sec. I want the first episode to be without Supergirl. Reintroduce us to a world without someone from the House of El. It's a darker world, but with Steel, Starlight, and Martian Manhunter holding up order, it's not too bad. Steel is wearing the crest on his uniform. I forgot to mention this, but in my version, Steel was not wearing the House of El crest on his suit because Supergirl exists, and he's more of an outside hero that hasn't been fully part of the super family yet. However, here he's taking up that super mantle. So, first episode, we touch on everyone's characters on the 1 year anniversary of Supergirl's disappearance, the Danvers, the Irons, Jones, Jimmy, and Winn, plus a slightly different world in regards to Supergirl. It will be kinda similar to the one we saw at the beginning of season 1 with Superman being gone. We'll have sort of that we didn't realize what we had until it was gone sort of thing with Supergirl. They miss her, but not in the way of Superman because it's only been a year instead of several. Then at the end of the episode, we get teases of her return as well as the incoming threat, which will be the next 3 episodes of this season, which will be 20 episodes, and will be about the cosmic threat, which will be the Dominators. Well, the Earth 38 version of the Dominators. So they come in ready to invade Earth, and the three of them realize that they need Supergirl. They need as much help as they can get. With that, they need to get her back from hell. So Jones contacts an old ally from back in the day, none other than Dr. Occult. Who is Dr. Occult, you may ask? He's pretty much John Constantine before John Constantine, except not as weird and out there as John is. He was one of the first ongoing characters DC had introduced in 1935, made by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, the creators of Superman. So I thought he would fit, especially into this John Constantine type of role on Earth 38, as Earth 1 already has the character. He's not going to bring Linda back himself, but he is going to help in a major way. If I were to cast anybody, I would definitely want Christopher Eccleston in for the role. So he gives them advice on how to bring her back. They need to perform an ancient ritual to bring her back to the surface world and a bunch of other supernatural mumbo jumbo. It's this big, long ritual that involves many ingredients of powerful beings and tons of other things. Long story short, they bring her back and she's fucked up to say the least. She was tortured for an entire year by Lilith. Even worse with her weakness to magic, and I've noticed in the past couple of years, mainly with Supernatural and Lucifer, they make it so that Earth time doesn't equal to Hell time. For Supernatural, it was that a month equals, I believe, a decade. And then in Lucifer, they make it so that 1 second equals, I believe, 1 year of Hell time. So I always found that to be really interesting. Not sure what it would be here, but I thought that would be really cool. So the 1 year feels a lot longer than what it actually is, you know. So the torturing is a lot worse. So it's also because of her said weakness to magic that she doesn't have complete control over her powers yet. So while they're dealing with that, the Dominators start to invade Earth. They start to take over Metropolis and other various cities, as well as kidnapping people to experiment with the metagene. The heroes find out about this and they try to get Supergirl to help, but she's still traumatized from her torture. So they leave her with Dr. Occult. The episode ends with the Irons and Jones getting kidnapped by the Dominators after a brutal fight with many of them. Next episode is with Linda trying to get ready to fight again. She's training mentally and physically, but she doesn't know that the Irons and Jones have been kidnapped. Pretty much her arc this episode is getting back to what she was before, but not totally. She still has this fucked up baggage that will stay with her for the rest of the show, and will feed into the change at the end of the show that I won't share until later. The other storyline will be the Irons and Jones trying to escape the Dominator's ship while rescuing everybody on board, with another small story involving Lana Lang. I want to keep expanding the super family, and as I said in the last video, I wanted to add Superwoman. I went over many different characters who could be here, and the one I liked the most was Lana Lang, akin to her Rebirth title. She'll have similar powers to what she had in Rebirth, as not to step on the toes of Supergirl's abilities, which is to absorb and generate multiple forms of energy. She would be played by Annie Wersching. I think she could be a good fit. So, she gets kidnapped, and they do various experiments on her, along with various other Earthlings. Long story short, she gets her powers, helps various people escape, and manages to help the Irons and Jones. But Jones stays behind and thinks he can help negotiate with the Dominators. After various training exercises with Occult, Linda finds her strength and becomes Supergirl once more, which is how we close out the episode. Last episode will be a doozy. While on a ship, Lang's metagene is activated, and there's a great fight scene along with her and the Irons and various other escapees whose metagenes are already activated. You can have a bunch of smaller heroes be introduced here, not as part of the show, but kind of to expand the universe a bit. With that, Supergirl finally re-reveals herself to the world with all sorts of admiration. She saves a bunch of people, hurts some Dominators, and does all the heroic things one would expect Supergirl to do. But as much as she is helping, more and more Dominators keep on coming. So she goes to the main ship above Metropolis to help people out. There she finds the Irons, Lana Lang, and the escapees. They all get the people off the ship through escape pods. Lang decides to stay, and she states, "It's what a friend of mine would do." Pretty much claiming she knew Clark was Superman, but that's a discussion for another time. So they're fighting the Dominators, and it's then revealed that they have a bomb that will put metahumans in a coma. The gene bomb. Their plan for Earth was to activate the metagene in as many people as possible and program them to be slaves and sell them to the highest bidder. Then once they leave the rest of the metahumans in a coma with the gene bomb, just like the original story. I am aware that in this universe the invasion crossover technically happened already, but I wanted to make it more like the original story and have it set a tone for the rest of the season. Long story short, they can't stop it. They think they do, but it kinda changes what the Dominators intended to do. The gene bomb explodes, sending all existing metahumans into a coma, with the exception of Lana Lang because she was on the ship, as well as having some lasting effects that I'll get into when talking about next season. However, the Dominators are still technically defeated. Jones gets everyone off the ship before he makes it explode along with the other ships all over the planet. This causes unspeakable damage to many cities. Keep in mind that this is the 4th episode of the season. We still have 16 more to go. This causes an even further downward spiral for Supergirl. She comes back to a world that is pretty much shit. And on top of that, she was tortured in hell for, quote unquote, a year. This will be the darkest season for Supergirl yet, hands down. Making the victory at the end of the season, as well as next/last season, all the more hopeful and rounding out her arc for this show. Alright, so now things are different. In season 1, it was Supergirl feeling self-doubt and the public hating her. Then in seasons 2 and 3, it was just the public hating her, but now the public admires her, but she is in a place of self-doubt and depression. After the fight with the Dominators, she wonders if what she's doing is actually helpful for Metropolis. She finally got the courage momentarily to become Supergirl again, but now a ton of Metropolis is destroyed, as well as cities across the world. All metahumans are in a coma, and a connection to her cousin is now dead. Supergirl will be dealing with the fallout of that. Due to the fact that Supergirl wasn't there for a year and only came in way past the point of no return, I can make it so that the majority of the public still admires her abilities. Maybe she can make a statement or something. Mainly because I want this season to be about her, similar to season 1. In terms of what the gene bomb did, outside of sending all metahumans into a coma, Maxwell Lord is resurrected. He was a big part of the original story, so I thought bringing him back would make sense. I'm not sure what else he could have done, but if I have any ideas, I'll bring them up in the future. So the rest of the season will be around various cosmic threats to keep in line with the introduction story of this season. Much like the second season, it will go back to the multiple episodes slash multiple arcs format. There will be 4 episode arcs consisting of, well, 4 episodes. Each will be an alien race coming down to Earth after finding out the Dominators being destroyed by Earthlings, taking advantage of a planet without not only Superman but without metahumans as well. Maxwell Lord won't be a major villain this season. Due to his supposed death in the middle of Season 3, he lays low and only operates as the Black King for the time being. The various alien races I have in mind to invade Earth are somewhat connected to the original invasion storyline. Not all of them will be, but I wanted to introduce some alien races into this world, the first of which will be the Controllers. They're mostly connected to the Green Lantern Corps, but it could be revealed that they were an ally of the Dominators and wanted revenge, as well as their control over a weak planet. That would be the first arc. They would get not totally easily defeated, but they would be the easiest to defeat, if that makes sense. Then maybe at the end of the arc they get the idea to make the Dark Stars, which are pretty much a more brutal objectivist version of the Green Lantern Corps. During this time, Lana talks with Linda about Clark and how he was throughout his life. She introduces what Linda was kind of craving for in the first season, someone who knew him personally as Clark for the majority of his life. She also knew he was Superman, but ever since he moved to Metropolis, they kind of lost touch. But he would visit from time to time. We could also introduce Pete Ross into the equation as well. A good choice for him would be Adam Scott. Originally, I had him for Jimmy Olsen and Magnussen for Pete, but since Magnussen is about the age I want for Olsen and Scott is the age I want for Pete Ross, I switched them. He and Lana are still friends, and he can make a guest appearance once in a blue moon if Linda ever visits Smallville again. Throughout the first arc with the Controllers, Lana will be learning to control her powers and getting a feel for being a hero. She wants to uphold the legacy of Superman more than Supergirl does. She was closer to him and wants to be part of this next generation of heroes like Superman. Linda wants this less and more so wants to be her own hero, which will add into the idea I have for her later on. We could also maybe have a relationship with her and Irons like in the comics, but since everyone hates the idea of relationships, I might not do that. So they defeat the Controllers, maybe have another cameo from Maggie Sawyer somewhere, and have Linda dealing with her baggage. Then the next invaders will be the Thanagarians. The Thanagarians are the race of hawk people that one of the many hawk men inhabit. I will actually have them cameo as Katar Hall and Shayera Hall. In this little arc, Linda will go through a bit of a personality change. She's going to be a bit more jaded and sarcastic, as well as being a bit more aggressive in her fighting style. She doesn't kill or anything like that, but she's a bit more brutal. Just small touches here and there throughout the arc, as well as the rest of the season. So John and Lana become more affiliated with the team and being more so the legacy of heroes, while Supergirl is starting to distance herself from people, becoming more independent and that sort of thing. She's becoming more isolated and depressed. Eventually, they defeat the Thanagarians in their quest for blood and revenge. It will be a very simple arc, as it will more so deal with Supergirl changing as a character. But don't take that as me nerfing the Thanagarians. I definitely want them to be a great threat. I'll also have Katar and Shayera die. Maybe Steel or Superwoman loses control for a second and kills them. That way they can reincarnate as humans in the near future. Maybe have them appear. At the end of the arc, Largon will then crash land on Earth with amnesia, teasing the Daxamites. The next villain actually won't be the Daxamites because I want to slowly build to that. The next villain will be a bit different. The Overmaster will be the villain for the next few episodes. Since he's one guy, this will be a slower arc and more diplomatic. Give us some slow pace and some rest before another huge fight. The Overmaster is a villain with cosmic awareness and is sort of this all-powerful being who doesn't really see himself as good or evil. So with that, he sees the destruction of many battles between the super team and the alien invasions that have happened. He wants to test the super team with a group of powerful villains that he has created, to see if the amount of battles have exhausted our heroes and to see if the Earth is as broken as he sees and is worth keeping, I guess. So he makes the Cadre, a group of villains that he creates to test them, which contain Black Mass, Shatterfist, Crowbar, Fastball, Nightfall, and Shrike. Pretty much low-level criminals that Overmaster gives powers to. In the first episode, they fight, and the super team loses due to the exhaustion of fighting the Dominators, the Controllers, and then the Thanagarians. Everyone is tired and broken, especially Supergirl, since she's still dealing with her experience. So, Overmaster believes that this world deserves to be destroyed. He makes his presence known to the heroes and he tells them that he will destroy the world over the course of a couple days and to show his true power. The next three episodes deal with the fallout of that, trying to save the planet as much as possible. It would be Steel, Superwoman, Starlight, and Supergirl pushing themselves to be the best they can be, while also trying to figure out Gand, who doesn't remember anything about his life. Linda gives him the name Mon-El, maybe because it means something in Kryptonian that is honorable or something, rather than the initial reason that he was given the name Mon-El. He also has the same exact power set as Kryptonians, not the stupid Golden Age version. Same exact powers, which he also tries to control throughout the arc. Throughout the Overmaster story, we start to learn who he is and he starts to become a hero that is needed because he is the only one that isn't completely broken from fighting. Eventually, at the end of the arc, Mon-El learns to become a hero while defeating the Overmaster by proving the Earth is worth saving. Maybe it could be through Mon-El, a person with no memory of what he is still learns to help him become a hero, or maybe there's a second chance with the Cadre, or maybe it could be like the original story with reversing the effects through Overmaster, something like that. I just wanted this arc to be different and shake things up a bit. Last but not least is the Daxamites. It will go back to the alien invasion formula for the final four episodes. It'll kind of be like what we got in the back end of the actual season 2, but not exactly. Because there won't be liberal propaganda shoved in your face at every second and that sort of thing. It'll be a bit more personal because we've come to know Gand, or for right now, Mon-El. He hasn't spent a ton of time with the super family, but I imagine that in between each arc, there's a bunch of time that passes. Maybe a month and a half, so that they're more acquainted and he's sort of part of the family more. He also still has amnesia, but is remembering bits and pieces, a la like Jason Bourne type of thing. But pretty much in terms of his relation to the Daxamite invasion, is that he was a scout sent in to scope out Earth and tell them anything they need to know about Earth. Mainly because Supergirl and crew have barely stopped an invasion of controllers and Thanagarians, as well as Overmaster destroying the planet. They want to know what makes this planet so goddamn special. How do they keep beating these invaders? These all powerful people getting beaten by a small group of people? Kinda ridiculous. So, Largon was sent to see what defenses does Earth exactly have. But when they didn't hear from him for a month, they assumed the worst. With that, they come in and don't invade immediately. Maybe they're cloaked so that they don't make their presence known immediately. They want to play it smarter. They send scout ships to find Largon. They search all over Metropolis trying to blend in as much as possible. They eventually find him, maybe doing some heroic deed. They find him, kidnap him, but Natasha sees everything. She goes to tell Linda that Mon-El was kidnapped and they don't know by who. So they try to figure it out. They eventually figure out that it was the Daxamites that kidnapped him and that they have to rescue him. At this point, they don't know that he was a Daxamite, they think he's Kryptonian. Forgot to mention that, but that's important. So they try to go off to rescue him. They try to formulate a plan, and they think they have the right strategy. So they try to rescue him from the Daxamite ship. Meanwhile, Mon-El is being tortured for being a traitor even though he has amnesia. They think he's lying, but he doesn't know what they're talking about. They try various tests with him and eventually figure out that he does have memory loss. So they put him in a machine that will help him remember. But Mon-El realizes the atrocities he's done in the name of Daxam and decides for himself now. At the same time, Linda, John, Lana, and Natasha board the ship and attempt to save him. At the same time, Mon-El escapes. Episode ends here. Then the next episode is of him coming together and wanting to beat the Daxamites. But one of the Daxamites wants to meet the superfamily. They meet the king or the high leader or whatever of Daxam. He says that they want to peacefully colonize the planet and live among them as their planet is dying, and also wanting quote-unquote Mon-El to be imprisoned due to him being a traitor and his escape attempt. But Supergirl says no to this because they don't want to risk Mon-El and they know he's up to something. He states that they'll have to take it by force since they know that all metahumans are in a coma and can't help them, so he imprisons them. All of them get tortured extensively. Linda is having flashbacks to her time in hell, and the scene gets very brutal in times in terms of a mindfuck type of thing. The Irons and Lang get worse fare due to them being human. They are nearly killed but ultimately will survive. Due to Supergirl remembering the extensive torture she had in Hell, she pretty much starts going apeshit, where she seriously harms a lot of Daxamites and escapes. She saves the Irons and Lang and eventually Mon-El. She says to him that he has to pick a side and that there's no turning back, and he states that he chooses Earth and upholding the real Krypton, as it was revealed that the Daxamites are colonized Kryptonians. Then Supergirl states that the name Mon means something in Kryptonian, and she states it means valor, teasing his superhero name. It is then shown that the Daxamite invasion has begun and they have to stop it. Long story short, just like with the previous invasions, they eventually stop it, realizing that they can be killed with bullets. They're impervious, but they can be killed by the thing that, bullets are made of. Go fucking figure. They also get some help from the Cadre, who kept their powers and are now the Earth 38 version of the Suicide Squad. Boom. Interesting. Bringing in another team from the list. In the last episode, Mon-El gets his supersuit with the House of El emblem in the right corner near his shoulder. Supergirl says to him that he earned to be a part of the El family and wear the crest. Just a little induction, I guess, into the family that I wish was there in the actual show. The season ends with a bit more of a hopeful edge to a rather dark season. The super family now has Supergirl, Steel, Starlight, Superwoman, and Valor. It's in a good place. Next time, we get to the last season of my vision of Supergirl.